Welcome back to Murder with Friends. Jumping right back into the JonBenét Ramsey case, Sam, Shocker, and I are going to be going over our theories on the case, other people's theories on the case that we maybe found interesting, and then my favorite are bizarre conspiracy theories that have surfaced, 20 years later online that I
bet there's a ton of them.
Oh,
I can't wait to hear. I mean, it's so sad that you start to lose the reality that this little girl was killed and tortured. But again, it's when you dig into it, it's so bizarre that you can't help yourself but come up with a theory yourself or look at other theories. And this
is a case that has absolutely taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. It's become a circus. It's become an entertainment piece. It really has.
Especially on the 20th anniversary of her death, we're seeing more and more. I think there's going to be a live action film or something coming out about it. So we have a lot to look forward to, but it should be unsettling. It should be uncomfortable. But I want to know what your theory or your favorite theories are on the JonBenét Ramsey case, and I do expect you to solve it because
that's why I'm
what
here.
We give our viewers
and
here
that's
at
why
Murder
I'm here.
with Friends.
You didn't know,
so
but I'm
solve
here
it.
because
Give
I'm going
it to
to solve
me, Sam.
it. I'm going to really let you down right now.
Damn it!
Because I researched this case front and back, and I keep going back and forth. Like even thinking last night about Burke being involved. Could Burke have done this? And then the parents are covering it up for Burke. At 9 years old, I just can't get behind it, and I can't get over the pineapple and the digestive tract. I do think that the parents are hiding something. I don't know if that means that they murdered their child. I have to say that I agree with Lou Smith saying that there's lots of evidence pointing that an intruder came in, but things still don't add up. I still go back to, I think the parents did it. And I hate saying that out loud because there is not enough evidence to say that the parents did it. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because God forbid they did not do it. And Patsy ended up dying of ovarian cancer, and John is still alive, and he still has to deal with people thinking he is the murderer, or his son, or his wife, his deceased wife, when in reality she was murdered.
Yeah.
But it doesn't add up. So my theory is, great, I can't answer your question. That was a long way around to saying I can't answer your question.
Here's what I sort of think. I absolutely think that the parents are hiding something.
Right.
Something's not adding up. Isn't adding up about their story, and it could be something minor that they're hiding just for pride, because we know that this is a family that had a lot of that, or it could be something major. Now, last night, this is what happens with me with this case. Last night, convinced it was the parents. Absolutely convinced. As I sit with you today,
why do you think the parents would do it?
That's the thing. I don't know.
There was a theory of bedwetting. I don't buy that.
There was a theory.
I don't buy that.
There was a theory that she was wetting the bed. We do know that.
Right, we do know that.
There was that perhaps Patsy. This is not my theory, but just to air it out. There was a theory that Patsy Ramsey was a very overbearing pageant mom, and obviously, given that JonBenét was so active in pageants, this plays well into this narrative, and that JonBenét wet the bed and her mom lost it, and there was some sort of an accident. Maybe she bumped and hit her head. The parents thought that she was dead, and they realized that they were, oh my God, we have to cover this up, and so that's why
the staging took
place. Which there is evidence to say that it was staged.
But then if you were to look at other pathology reports where she possibly had fingernail markings, that does not fit that, because you're not going to be trying to release yourself from a constraint if you had just hit yourself on the head and you're out of it.
Okay.
And that's not staged. So again, some evidence points against that, even though that would make a lot of sense. But
here's my theory today.
Okay.
And this will change
and it changes.
Tomorrow.
It will change.
And it's a creepy one. So here's what I think. I think that JonBenét Ramsey woke up in the middle of the night and helped herself to some pineapple. Or perhaps Mrs. Ramsey and Burke had some pineapple out the night before. They didn't put it away. JonBenét wakes up in the middle of the night and she is eating some pineapple or whatever. And then I think that there was an intruder through the open window, and it was someone that worked with her father. And I think that someone had really gone off the deep end here. I'm saying like total madman, sneaked into the house, maybe didn't even know what he wanted to do at the time, or he or she. But let's say for this story that I'm painting, it's a male. And he didn't even know what he wanted to do at the time, and he just fucking lost it. This is a guy, John Ramsey from Access Graphics, a lot of money, and a lot of influence, and a lot of people that were beneath him.
And someone that was privy privy to the $118,000 bonus.
Absolutely.
Maybe thought he should have gotten the bonus. Maybe there's just envy there, resentment.
Because let's agree that no terrorist organization in this ransom note would be like, we're kidnapping your daughter for $100,000 basically.
This would be someone else trying to confuse the police to take the heat away from them.
So I think this man snuck into the house, not really knowing what he was going to do, comes upon JonBenét, who is awake. And JonBenét, let's say that maybe she recognizes him from the Christmas party, doesn't think anything of it.
Or the Christmas tour where 2,000 people came through the home.
Exactly. And so she, she is, as far as we know, like a very sort of compliant, obedient girl, and doesn't think any better of the situation. And I think that he maybe did torture her. No, fortunately there wasn't any there was no indication there was sexual assault, but I think that it's possible that there was this madman that snuck into the house, and but then someone that was really having like a psychotic break, and that's why he was in this house for, it must have been at least 3 hours in the middle of the night, for everything to add up, because he's, writing this note, he's, she's knocked out, maybe he's having this break. I'm going Criminal Minds on this. Then he's having this breakdown, and then, then he's like, oh, maybe she's waking up, fuck, what am I gonna do? And then he starts strangling her. I don't know. And then sort of hides the body and just throws the ransom and just throw away suspicion. That's my theory.
I believe that theory. I do. I think that's a really good theory. As you were telling me that theory, I said that makes sense. Because of course you're still going to find Burke and the mother's fingerprints on that pineapple bowl because they're all eating it in the family, and their family, and they put it in the fridge. They take it out. They put it in the fridge. That makes sense. So I agree with that theory. You did bring up, because I know that people that are familiar with the case, they may have misinformation. You brought up the sexual abuse. So we should clear that aspect of that up, because people may comment, oh, but there was indication that there was sexual abuse. There was zero proof of that. In the police report, it did say in the pathology report that she had vaginitis. Now, some people took that as an indication of chronic sexual abuse because she had irritation down there. But her doctor, her own pediatrician, as well as all these other doctors, came forward and said it's very common for a little girl or a little boy to have, a little girl to have vaginitis, or a little boy to have something similar in his private region because of something so simple as whatever soap they're using. So a soap that she's irritated to could cause vaginitis. That is not proof of chronic sexual abuse. And we have to say that, because that's not fair to just put that on someone, that you're a molester, because a lot of people ended up calling John Ramsey a molester. Maybe there's some truth to that. There's absolutely no proof,
but not based on what they were.
There's absolutely no proof of that, and that's not fair. And I wanted to make sure that we nipped that in the bud so people didn't continue to spew that misinformation.
Yeah, and then also really quickly, can you explain the DNA
That's
evidence?
Interesting.
That's another, because that plays into my theory that I have today.
Right. The DNA evidence is really important because it's also what the second DA used to exonerate the family. And a lot of people were ticked off by that. They didn't think that the parents should have been exonerated. And Burke, I don't think Burke was ever named an official suspect though, but the parents were exonerated because of this DNA evidence. Now the DNA evidence, what proved is there is DNA outside of the family, outside of the suspects, intruder DNA, that's what you could call it, DNA that matched this stranger, and the DNA was found in 2 places, which gives it way more of a possibility that this is an accurate piece of evidence. Because if it was a little bit of DNA, because they found it in the inside of her underwear and they found it on her legging. So let's say you found a little bit of DNA on the underwear, people could
have been from the contaminated crime scene.
And that's what's going to be argued in court. If you were to go to court, you're going to have the prosecution and the defense arguing whether or not it was contamination, whether it was from the salesperson who sold the underwear, whether it was the person handling the underwear from a factory overseas.
But if it's in 2 places.
But if it's in 2 completely different places from the same DNA, that immediately makes the likelihood of that being good hard evidence that an intruder came in, handled her, and left their DNA, because it's in 2 different spots on 2 completely different articles of clothing. It's not one article of clothing that could have came in one bag. So that speaks to your theory.
Well, that's my theory, but I want to play a theory for you that I found on YouTube that is perhaps the most outrageous theory and maybe my favorite theory of all time about the JonBenét
I can't wait.
murder.
I live for a good theory.
Let's take a look at this clip.
The strange world of JonBenét Ramsey is that she became Katy Perry. That's how that worked out. So moving through, you can see these parents and continued to tell the story for a while. You had ideas floating across the internets. This brings us all back close to home now, because most of you people, if you're watching this video, you've dealt with or you've seen the people I've talked about at the beginning. All of those people are untrustworthy, and they're all liars and false witnesses of death. That's supposed to be Katy Perry when she's young. You can see that that's just an older JonBenét Ramsey, right? You can see that.
No. No, no, no.
Sam, that video has over 2 million views.
And what are people saying?
Well, that
what are they saying in the comment section? That we
comment
discovered Katy Perry was JonBenét?
No, my favorite comment is that this man is allowed to legally go out and buy a firearm. Is that what's one of my favorite comments? And then another one is that he says things that are totally unproven, and then he'll...
Is he trolling?
No, he genuinely believes that Katy Perry, that her parents made like a deal with the devil and sacrificed JonBenét so that she could become the Katy Perry, and she says.
And
the Katy
how
Perry
would that
character.
serve? How would that serve Katy Perry? Because it has not benefited Katy Perry in any way, shape, or form. Katy Perry never used that. The Ramsey family never used that. So
well, he says that
there's no payoff.
And also that Mr. Ramsey is still alive doesn't necessarily add up to that story, but that video
is so bizarre, and I love it.
Yeah, well, this is what we're seeing.
Crazy.
20 years later, all this crazy is sort of coming to the surface, and I want to talk with you a little bit about JonBenét's legacy, and then we're going to take a peek at this new mini-series coming out. It's a docu-series about the JonBenét Ramsey murder, but if you could sum up, like, what is her legacy? Like, why is she lingering in the public consciousness still 20 years later? Do you think it's just that it's an unsolved case? There are many unsolved cases.
There's many unsolved cases, and unfortunately this one has so much attention because she's this beautiful little girl, this beautiful little white girl. Like, honestly, it's sad. It comes down to socioeconomic status. It comes down to white privilege. It comes down to her in a, people are fascinated by beauty pageants too.
Yeah.
So I think it has to do with this fascination of, we keep seeing it replaying in our mind of her strutting the stage and how beautiful she is, and then this affluent family, and then you want to point at the parents, and then you find out more stuff about the police department and how there's cracks in the case. So, but you can look at any case and find cracks and find interesting components in it. But this one, I think it gets more attention because of the sole fact of the socioeconomic status and the color of her skin, unfortunately.
Do you think it will ever be solved?
I think it's too late. Unless there's some new DNA that can, there's been talks of this new DNA capabilities where it can pinpoint the ethnicity of DNA. So then I guess you could test that outside DNA in her clothing. But then again, you can still argue, it's still circumstantial, you can still argue in court that outside DNA, even if it came from a non-Caucasian ethnicity, because then it would rule out the family, you could still argue that was still cross-contamination from people in the house, or from, even though it's in two different places, it decreases the likelihood, but still, it's still circumstantial. Yeah. So I don't think it'll ever be solved. And I think what adds to the entertainment value of the case is the fact that we had that guy, his name is escaping me, that claimed Mark Carr that claimed to murder her for his 15 minutes of fame.
He's one of many people that have confessed to murdering JonBenét.
Really?
Yeah, other people, but not all of them get the sort of press that they do. Because I think he had some tie to the Boulder area or something where it gave him a little bit of credibility for a second.
Right.
But people do, view this as, oh, this is my 15 minutes of fame.
Coupled
sort of
with something's not right with him.
Of
right?
course,
yeah, obviously. And he clearly had some mental health issues.
But I would say short of an actual confession, I don't think we'll ever know.
You don't think you'll ever know?
Some people will say that given that Patsy Ramsey is not with us anymore, we will never know, and take that as you will. But let's take a quick look at CBS's new mini-series documentary about the JonBenét Ramsey case, and then I want to get your reaction, Sam.
Let me address very directly, I did not kill my daughter JonBenét.
God knows who you are, and we will find you.
The list of suspects narrows.
There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? What? Does it say who sent it? I don't know. Hurry. Patty.
So you try to solve a homicide, but the homicide doesn't exist.
I did not kill JonBenét. I love that child.
We do not have sufficient evidence.
This little girl's homicide to this date has been unresolved. In my opinion, I think we can change that right now.
It's 20 years later, and this case is still unsolved. We hope to get the truth out about how she died.
Wow, that is.
It's going to be riveting.
It's riveting. It's captivating, and every theory you get into it, but then you think about it and it doesn't pass the smell test. And I think that's what's riveting too, is no matter how it boils down, the hard evidence and the circumstantial evidence that we have now today doesn't pass the smell test.
I think
doesn't.
The only thing I know for sure sitting with you today is that we will be having viewing parties of that show. That's the only thing I can know for sure.
Which sounds so creepy and weird.
But Sam, that's what my show is about, okay?
But no, it's true though. But it's you can't believe me. I was riveted by the Jodi Arias trial. Not to say that my heart broke for Travis Alexander, the way that she murdered him 3 times over. I feel the same way about JonBenét, but you can still be intrigued to find out all this new evidence, per se, or new narrative or new points of view, so you can re-look at it and try to think, gosh, who did it?
Who did it?
That's a natural instinct that we all have in us. We always want to problem solve, especially when it comes to a murder of a little girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will be joining your viewing parties, as weird and creepy as that sounds.
All right, but guys, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Who did it? What is your theory on the JonBenét Ramsey murder case? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you next time on Murder with Friends.